Hi, my name is AJ and today I'd like to show you the two best bodyweight leg exercises to grow huge quads and hamstrings. Before we dive into the two exercises, I'd like to go through the 5 most important points when it comes to determining whether exercise is good or not so good for hypertrophy. So these are the 5 points. It trains the function of that muscle and allows you to put high tension on that muscle group. The muscle is becoming a limiting factor and the reason why you can't do any more reps. It allows for progressive overload and it can be trained with sufficient intensity and volume. So in my opinion, if these 5 points are ticked off, you got a great exercise for muscle building. So bodyweight training or calisthenics are not typically known for the lower body exercises, but there are 2 exercises which stand out in particular in my opinion. So let's start with the hamstrings, and here we got the Nordic curl. The hamstrings cross both the knee and the hip joint, so they can be trained via knee flexion and hip extension. And the Nordic curl trains your hamstrings via knee flexion, while your glutes have to work isometrically to keep your hips extended in the shortened position. This exercise trains your hamstrings in the lengthened position, which means that most of the tension will be put on your hamstrings when they are lengthened and stretched out. This also means that the hardest point of the movement will be at the bottom when your upper body is close to the ground, and the easiest point of the movement will be at the top when your knees are flexed and you're in an upright position. The scientific literature indicates that training muscles at long muscle lengths is important and beneficial for hypertrophy, and this exercise does that nicely. Another great thing about this exercise is that it is scalable in every direction. A lot of bodyweight leg exercises like regular squats or lunges become too easy at one point and it just becomes very inefficient to grow muscle with them. This one is the exact opposite, so the bodyweight version will be too hard to start with for 99.9% of people, and you actually have to work up towards that, and the bodyweight version itself will be hard enough, I would say forever, for almost everyone. So it ticks the box when it comes to progressive overload, and it can be trained with sufficient intensity. Let's go over the setup and the technique. So if you want to do this movement, you need something heavy enough to anchor your feet, and you maybe also need something high enough to anchor band if you want to use band assistance. I would also recommend to put something soft under your knees and your feet, as otherwise the setup can be quite uncomfortable. You want to lower yourself down while also keeping your hips as extended as possible. If your hips bend a little bit, that's absolutely fine, and this can also be used as a metric for progression. Like I said earlier, the bodyweight version will be too hard for most people, so you will have to start with a regression. And my 2 favorite regressions of the movements are negative only repetitions and band assisted repetitions. With the negative only repetitions, you want to start in the same position and then lower yourself down but keep your hips extended, and then at the bottom you can use your hands to push yourself back up. Make sure to not rush the eccentric and really try to fight that lowering phase. If you want to do the band assisted version, I recommend to anchor the band around your chest, and then you can basically do full repetitions. Make sure to use a band which allows you to do at least 5 repetitions of the movement. Let's continue on with the quads, and here we got the reverse Nordic curl. The function of the quads is to extend the knees, and while 3 of the 4 heads of the quads only cross the knee joint, one of them, the rectus femoris, also crosses the hip joint. This means that during regular squat exercises, the activation of the rectus femoris is limited, because during a regular squat, our hips flex, and thereby the rectus femoris gets shortened at the hip joint while it gets lengthened at the knee joint. And this basically means that it can't work properly during a regular squat. This is why if we want to train the rectus femoris properly, we have to choose an exercise where the only thing that happens is that your knees extend. This is where exercises like the leg extension in the gym, the reverse Nordic curl or the sissy squat come into play. The great thing about the reverse Nordic curl is that it trains your quads in a lengthened position, and not only that, it allows you to get a deeper stretch on your quads in comparison to most other leg exercises. This makes it a great exercise for hypertrophy. It is also scalable in every direction, and you will probably have to work up to the bodyweight version. For most people, full range of motion reverse Nordic curls should be plenty hard enough to get a sufficient and efficient hypertrophy stimulus on your quads. Let's talk about the setup and the technique. Another cool thing about this exercise is that it basically requires no equipment, so it just needs some floor space, and I would also recommend to put something soft under your knees and feet. I recommend to place your knees around shoulder width apart and have your feet point slightly inwards instead of outwards. At the top, you want to make sure to squeeze your core and your glutes, and then you want to lean back as much as possible while keeping your hips extended. Only go as deep as mobility allows and as you don't feel any pain or major discomfort. The hip extension part allows us to get a great stretch on our quads, so make sure to focus on that technique cue. When it comes to progressing or regressing this exercise, you will notice that it requires a lot of hip mobility, especially in your quads. So increasing or decreasing the range of motion can be used as a way to make it either harder or easier, and can also be used as your primary metric for progression. You can also use a resistance band or something to hold on to in order to provide some support, especially in the bottom position, as this is the hardest point of the exercise. The Nordic curl and the reverse Nordic curl are the equivalent of the gym machine leg curl and leg extension, so they train your hamstrings and your quads in a more isolated fashion. You could either program them after compounds, so your squats, lunges and hinges, or you could also do them at the start of your workout to fatigue your quads and hamstrings before you do your compounds. This way you can use less load on your compound movements and still get a good stimulus on your muscles. This is especially useful for people who train with limited equipment. I personally like to program these two exercises for 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 10 repetitions for the Nordic curl and 5 to 15 repetitions for the reverse Nordic curl. You can also do these two exercises as a superset, so doing them one after another with no break or a short break in between. As here we are training opposing muscle groups, so the quads and the hamstrings, so one exercise should not affect the other one. You can modify the set and rep structure any way you like, just make sure to train sufficient intensity and to stay in the 5 to 30 rep range if the goal is hypertrophy. But with these two exercises, this shouldn't be a problem anyway. Have you tried these two exercises? If not, I would highly recommend to give them a shot. If you liked this video or it helped you in any way, I would highly appreciate if you press the like button and subscribe to the channel. Share your thoughts and feedback down below in the comment section. I will see you next time, much love, and see you on level 100. Peace.